We continue now at the top of Daf Mem Gimel Amud Beis in Meseches Kiddushin. This is Kiddushin Daf 43b. And the previous Amud Rava said that Rav Nachman said that a shliach is able to be an aid by Kiddushin and by Gerushin, v'chein b'dinei mamanis, and also when it comes to monetary issues, we also say shliach nasa aid. And Rashi explains v'chein b'dinei mamanis im shalach chov l'malva al yedei shnayim. Let's say a person sends his debt to the creditor with two people, so those messengers can also be aidim. And the Gemara says utzricha, we need to say shliach nasa aid by all of the cases. Why? Diashminan b'kiddushin, because if we only learn this halacha by kiddushin, mishum de lemisra kaasi, the reason is because they're coming for the purposes of prohibition. Aval gerushin, but when it comes to gerushin, so they're coming to permit her. So necho shema'in of nasan ba, we should be suspicious, we should be concerned. Maybe the person has turned his attention towards her. He wants to marry this particular witness. We can't trust him. V'yashmin and gerushin, and if we said by gerushin that a shliach could be an aid, mishum de'itasal lebeit shrei lo chazia, that's because you have two people over here. So a woman can't marry two men. So therefore there is no concern if the shluchim act as aidim. Aval memona, but when it comes to mamanis, when it comes to monetary issues, Mahani Miflag Palgi, you'll say maybe these people, their plan is to be witnesses, and really they just want to split the money. And so tzrichi, that's why it's necessary to say in all of these cases that the shluchim, the messengers, are able to be eidim. And Rashi explains the Lameisra Kaasi in the case of Kiddushin, so the two individuals, they're coming in order to prohibit her. Hilkach, therefore, Malahem la Usra Aleihem ve'al kol ha'olam b'sheker. Why would they be lying? Why would they say that she's now accepted Kiddushin, she's now married, she's usher to everyone? They stand to gain nothing, and therefore we say that in that case the Shluchim are able to be witnesses. And then the Gemara said, the Itza lebeit shrei lo chazi, if you have two witnesses, two Shluchim rather, coming to divorce a woman, they can be witnesses, because what are they gaining? A woman can't marry two men anyway. V'kevan to train inu lo mashakri, since there are two of them, there's no reason for them to lie. But again, when it comes to the mumminess, when it comes to the monetary cases, maybe they are lying. Maybe the reason why they want to be witnesses in this case is because they're trying to split the money themselves. Therefore, it's necessary to say shliach nasa aid. And the Gemara continues, Maika Savra, what exactly does Rav Nachman hold? And Rashi explains, Maika Savra Rav Nachman da'amar v'chein b'dinei mamanis. What exactly does Rav Nachman hold that he says by dinei mamanis, by monetary cases, we say shliach nasa aid? Again, the case of Rav Nachman is that a lova is paying back a malva, the borrower is paying back the lender, and the borrower gives the money to two shluchim, to two agents. They're going to deliver the money to the malva, to the lender. And again, Rav Nachman is saying they're also able to testify to that effect. They're able to be witnesses. But what exactly does Rav Nachman hold in general when it comes to a loan? If he holds that when a person lends money to his friend with witnesses, so the person who's paying back needs to pay back in front of witnesses, and if there are no witnesses that he paid back, then he's not believed to say that he paid back. But if that's the case, then these shluchim, these agents, nogim be'edus ninu, they're actually nogea be'edus. There's a reason not to believe them when they say they did what they were supposed to do. Diamri lo parani, because if they say that we didn't pay back, in other words, if they say we returned the money to the lova that gave it to us, so Amar Lu, so he'll say to them, Piruni, so you have to pay me. He'll say to them, you have no proof you gave it back to me, because again, Hamal v'chaveru be'edim tzarech l'for be'edim. When the lova gives the money to the shluchim, when he gives the money to those messengers, he's essentially lending that money to the messengers. There may have been witnesses present when he gave it to the messengers. The messengers will not be believed to say that they gave it back to the lova unless they have witnesses that they gave it back to the lova. So they are forced to say that they gave it to the malva. That's why they're nogea be'edus, and we really shouldn't be able to trust them when they say that they gave it to the malva. And Rashi says, if he holds that when money is lent with witnesses, it has to be paid back with witnesses, and therefore a person's not believed to say that I paid you back, so how can these shluchim be believed to say we gave the money to the lender? They're considered nogea be'edus. If they don't say that we're testifying the lender received it, Amar lehen lova peruni, the lova will say, well then pay me back, I gave you the money. Masha masarti lachem, give me back what I gave to you. Sometimes he might have given it to them in front of witnesses, and so therefore they're essentially forced to say that they gave the money to the malva. So how can we trust them to say that they gave the money to the malva? And so the Gemara says, Ella, rather you have to say, Liolam Kasava, really Rav Nachman holds, that Hamalves chaver be'edim ein tzarich lefaro be'edim. If somebody lends money to his friend with witnesses, that person does not need to pay back with witnesses. So the shluchim can really say, we gave the money back to the lover. They're able to say the truth over here. They're not nogea be'edus. Umigo deyachli l'meimar hadrinu l'lova. Now, since they're able to say that we return the money to the lova, and they would be fine, they would not be held liable at all, yecholin l'meimar, so therefore they're also able to say, parane l'malva, that we paid the money back to the malva. They're believed as witnesses. That's the idea of shliach nasa aid. But the Gemara continues, V'hashta detikun Rabbanan shvuas hesis. But now that the Rabbanan say there's such a thing as a shvuas hesis, meaning to say, generally speaking, according to the Torah, a person only has to take a shvua if they are moda b'mixas, if they admit partially. They deny some of it and they admit to part of it. But the Rabbanan say that even when a person denies everything, the person has to take a shvuas hesis. And so therefore, now that the Rabbanan say a person needs to take a shvuas hesis, so now these witnesses who are, these shluchim who are also witnesses, they actually can't simply deny it. They can't simply say that we returned everything to the lova. They'd have to take a shavua. So in such a situation, mishtabi hani edim diyahivna lei, what would happen is that the edim would take an oath that it was given, that they gave it to him, that he gave it to him, umishtabi, that they gave it to him rather, umishtabi malva de lo shakel lei, and then the malva would say, I never got anything. In other words, the edim would have to take a shvua that they gave it to the malva. The malva would say he never received anything. Upara lei lova la malva, and then the lova would actually have to pay the malva back. That's how we would apply this halacha now that there's a concept of shvuas hesis. And Rashi explains the Hadrinu Lelova, again, the reason why Rav Nachman holds that these messengers, these agents are able to be Edom is because since they can say we gave the money back to the Lova, L'Mashalech, the one who sent them, they wouldn't even need to take an oath. It's not a modem mixas, they're completely denying it. They're saying they gave everything back. But since they could say that, Yachli, L'Meimar Nami, Yohiv Yahivna, L'Malva, they can also say we gave it to the lender, V'divrei and Kayamin, and their words are accepted, Uv'toras Edus, they're considered Edom, She'enam Nogim Beidus, and they're not considered Nogea Beidus. And Rashi continues, V'hashta the Tikun Rabbanan Shvuas Hesis, but now that the Rabbanan say there's such a thing as a Shvuas Hesis, Sha'afilu mi she'eino modem mixas, that even somebody who's not modem mixas, even someone who doesn't admit partially, he tilu all of shvua, there's still an oath. In other words, if the shluchim would say that we return the money, they would still need to take a shvuas hesis. So mehashta afilu svira lon hamalves chaveru be'edim ein tzarich leforu be'edim. So now, even if we hold that when someone lends money to his friend with witnesses, they don't need to pay back with witnesses, and so therefore, again, you could say that they can always say, these shluchim, these messengers can always say, we gave it back to the lova, therefore they're believed to say that they paid back to the malve. But still, afilu achin nogim beidusam. But still, there is a little bit of negia. There is a little bit of nogea beidus over here because they can't simply say they gave it to the love. Because if they were to say that we returned it to you, they wouldn't need to take an oath. They wouldn't need to take an oath, a shuas heses, that they returned it to the love. That's why they prefer to say that the malve received it from them. That's a way of getting out of the shvua. Because again, the love is making the claim against them, and they're saying if they say, they deny that claim and they say we gave it back to you, then they'd have to take a shuas hesis. Better that they say they paid the malva back. They prefer that the lender loses out rather than they have to take an oath. Even though they're suspect in terms of money, even though over here they're essentially causing the malva to lose money, but they're not suspected to take a false oath. They don't want to take a false oath, and so therefore they'd prefer to say, they'll simply say we gave the money to the malva. That's a way that they might be trying to get out of a shvua. And so Rashi continues, Hilkach b'mamun, therefore by mamun lo amrin on hein edav. We don't say that these messengers can simply be witnesses. V'kevan de edim lo haven, since they're not able to be witnesses because they are no gei b'dover, they'd rather just say that they gave it to the malva because they're not able. They don't want to say that they returned it to the lova. They don't want to take a shvua. Hare hadin hazeh kedin hakotzav b'shvuas. And so therefore the Gemara says the halacha over here would be similar to what we find in Mesechet Shvuas gabe chenvani al pinkasu by the case of the storekeeper. And essentially the halacha is as follows. Mishtabi inu diyahavu lamalva. What they have to do is they have to take an oath that they gave the money to the malva. V'niftar and min hasholech, and that actually allows them to be potter in terms of the lova, in terms of the borrower who sent them to him in b'shvua, because he believes them with a shvua. Meaning, if they would deny something to him, they would take a shvuas heses, they would get out of it. So if they take a shvua that they gave to the malva as well, they get out of it in terms of the lova. He believed them, he trusted them with an oath, Shemasr Len Ma'osav, because he's the one that gave them the money. Avol malva omer, but what can happen in this case is the lender can say, she'einem monin lo b'shvua, that I never trusted, they're not trusted to me with a shvua. The fact that they took a shvua, that they paid the malva back, that's not the malva's problem. He still denies that he got the money. Umishtabed lo shakal miyadayu, he can simply take an oath that he never received anything from them. Upara lova la malva, and the lova, the borrower, will have to pay back the malva. The lova essentially, because of the fact that the Aiden, because they took an oath that they paid the malva, so therefore they owe nothing to the lova. However, the malva, he still has a claim, he still wants his money, and therefore the lova does have to pay the malva. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, "Ho'ish mekadesh es bitu," a man is able to receive Kiddushin on behalf of his daughter. And the Gemara says, Tanan Hasam, we learned over there in the Mishnah Meseches Gittin, Nara ha'me'orasa hivi avia mekablen eskita. When it comes to a Nara ha'me'orasa, that is a young girl, she reached the stages of maturity, but she's in the first 6 months of maturity, and she's betrothed to a man, so she and her father are able to receive her get. Amar Rabbi Yehuda says, Ein shtei yadayim zochos kechad. You can't have two people both being able to be zoch at the same time. Elo avia mekabel eskita. Rather, by a nara ha'me'orasa, she is not able to receive her get. Only her father is able to receive her get on her behalf. V'chol she'ein yechol lishmor eskita, ein yechol le'eskarish. And anybody who's not able to watch over her get properly, she is not able to be divorced. And so you have here a machlokes tanoim when it comes to a nara ha'me'orasa. Is she and her father, are they both able to receive her get? That's the opinion of the Tanna Kama. And Rabbi Yehuda says only her father can receive her get. And the Gemara continues, Amar Reish Lakish says, K'machlokes l'gerish and kach machlokes l'kiddushin. Just like we find this machlokes by gerish and by divorce, the same machlokes exists by kiddushin, meaning the same machlokes between the Tanna Kama and Rabbi Yehuda. Let's say you had a nara, is it both she and her father that are able to receive the kiddushin, or only her father is able to receive the kiddushin? It's the same machlokes tanoim according to Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, but Rabbi Yochanan says machlokes l'gerish, and this machlokes tanoim was only by divorce. Aval kiddushin, but when it comes to kiddushin, devrei hakol via velohi, everybody agrees when it comes to a nara, so only her father is able to accept the kiddushin, and she is not able to accept the kiddushin. V'yamar Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina, and Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina says, my time with the Rabbi Yochanan, what's the reason of Rabbi Yochanan? I'll leave it the Rabbanan according to the Rabbanan, meaning again, according to the Rabbanan, by Gerishin we say she and her father can accept the get, but when it comes to Kiddushin, we say that everybody agrees it's only her father, even the Rabbanan agree, only her father. What's the reason that the Rabbanan make this distinction between Kiddushin and Gerishin? And the reason is, Gerishin de machneses atzma l'rishus avia, by Gerishin where she's bringing herself back into the rishus, the authority of her father, so bein hi uvein avia, then it could be her, it could be her father, both of them can accept the Gerishin. But by Kiddushin de mafkas atzma mirishus avia, by Kiddushin where she's actually leaving the authority of her father, avia velohi, so then it's her father is able, in that case by Kiddushin, but she is not able to receive the Kiddushin. But the Gemara continues, V'harei Maimer, but what about a situation of Maimer? That's essentially the equivalent of Kiddushin when it comes to Yibum. The Mafkas Atzma Merishus Avia, there she's also taking herself out of the authority of her father. The situation is that her husband died, and now instead of going back to her father, she's going to the brother of her husband, Utznan, and yet we learned in a Mishnah over there by Maimer. And Rashi explains, Nara ha'me'orasa, by a Nara ha'me'orasa, hu adin l'katana, the same is actually true by a katana. V'hai pligi benara lohodiacha kochad Rabbi Yehuda. The only reason they're arguing by a Nara is to show the strength of Rabbi Yehuda. The Rabbi Yehuda would say, even by a Nara, it's only her father and not her. He via she and her father. Again, that's the opinion of the Rabbanan. In terms of receiving her get, both she and her father can receive the get. He avia, either her or her father can receive the get. He sharei gedolahi v'yesh yad. She's an adult by the case of a nara, and she has a yad. V'yomra Torah v'nasan biyada. The Torah says v'nasan biyada. V'yavia, and of course her father also. Torah zichsalo lekabel kiddusha, because the Torah allows him to receive her kiddushin. V'iskesh yitzia lahavai, and divorce is compared to kiddushin. V'davka nara. Now in terms of that, it's only by a nara. Alva katana via velohi. By a katana, it would only be her father and not her, because by a katana she does not have the ability to receive that gerishin. V'davka min ha'erisin, and all of this is only true when the girl is just betrothed. Aval minhan is suin, but once she's married, he velo avia. So then it's just her and not her father. Her father no longer has rishus. The mishanisas ain't li avia rishus ba, because once she gets married, her father has no rishus over her. And we will point out over here that the Bach notes, Rashi divrei maschil hi v'avia yitzia lahavoya, v'davka nara v'katana avia v'lohi. Again, Rashi over here says that this is only talking about a nara, but by a katana, only her father can receive the Kiddushin and not her. And that seems to contradict what Rashi said earlier, because Rashi said, Hu hadin l'katana. The same thing is true by katana. Katana and nara are identical in terms of the fact that she and her father are able to receive the Kiddushin. And so the Bach notes over here, v'davka nara avol katana avia v'lohi tevas elam yusorim. These words in Rashi are actually extra. V'nira b'tzido zel ma'asheperish Rashi kodem chazara. This was actually Rashi's opinion before Rashi retracted. V'arishanu lachar chazara. But what Rashi says at first, that's after Rashi retracted his first opinion, meaning to say, what Rashi says at first is actually his final opinion. Rashi is saying, hu hadin l'katana, that the same is true by a katana, by both a nara and a katana. According to the Tanakama, both she and her father are able to receive the gerushin, and Rabbi Yehuda argues, Rabbi Yehuda says no, even by a nara, not only by katana, but even by a nara, it's only her father who can receive the gerushin. And Tosas point this out as well. Tosas say, Perish HaKuntras Dafka Nara V'Katana Divrei HaKol Avia V'Lohi. Rashi says it's only true by a Nara, by a Katana she cannot receive her gerushin, only her father can. And Tosas goes on to discuss it, and then Tosas point out, V'Shuv Chazar Bo Rashi, but then Rashi retracted, V'Higia V'Peirusha D'Nakat Nara V'Uadin Katana. And he amends his commentary, and he says instead that the Mishnah says Nara, but the same is true by a Katana. A Katana can receive a get as well. And then Rabbi Yehuda said, Ein shtei yadayim zochas ke'echad b'gof echad. You can't have two different people both being able to receive. That's why Rabbi Yehuda said it's only her father. And then we said, V'chol she'eni yechol lishmor es gita, eni yechol lehiskarish. If she can't protect her get, she can't be divorced. Afilu al yedei avia, even through her father, she can't be divorced. Shota, she's considered to be a shota. She's an imbecile. V'yam Rabbi Yitzchak v'shilcha mibeisum misha meshalcha ve'ena chozeres. You can only divorce a girl who doesn't return, who realizes that she's separated. That excludes this kind of girl. She's sent away and she keeps returning. But Meseches Yevamis, this is in Meseches Yevamis. And then the Gemara said there's a machlokas amoroim. We see this machlokas by gerushin. What about by kiddushin? Kach machlokas by kiddushin. And Reish Lakish says that the same machlokas would be by kiddushin. Migerushin nishma lekiddushin de l'Rabbanan im kidsha atzma mekudeshes. That according to the Rabbanan, if she receives the kiddushin herself, it is a good kiddushin. Well, Rabbi Yehuda ain't a mekudeshes. Rabbi Yehuda says no, she's not able. The nara cannot receive her kiddushin. It only can go through her father. And the Gemara says, "My time of the Rabbi Yochanan, I leave the Rabbanan." Well, what's the reason of Rabbi Yochanan according to the Rabbanan? Meaning the Rabbanan, the Shani Lei ben Kiddushin leGerushin. The Rabbanan are making this distinction between Kiddushin and Gerushin. And the Gemara explained Gerushin the Machnesas Atzma by Gerushin, where she's bringing herself into her own rishus, and she's bringing herself to her father's rishus. But Kabbalas Gita l'Rishus Avia, she's bringing herself into her father's rishus by receiving the get. Amrinon di Avia nami nichol shetakabel hiva. So there the father also, he accepts the fact that she can receive the get. He wants her to receive the get, and she also can receive the get according to the Rabbanan. But when it comes to Kiddushin, there she's taking herself away from her father's rishus. So there the Rabbanan already say only her father can receive and not her. And Maimer, what's Maimer? Kiddusha Yavam B'Yavemta. That's the Kiddushin, effectively the Kiddushin by Yibam. Kruyan Maimer, that's called Maimer. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Mem Dalid Amud Aleph.